without further ado, I would like Faizan to take it away. Just so you know, Faizan, this is my second dissertation defense during the COVID outbreak. I'm attending first as a chair. This is definitely interesting, unprecedented times, but I can see everyone in great spirits. So nothing can stop you from getting your PhD. So take it away.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sinam. Welcome everyone to my dissertation presentation. I know many of you are joining from a few different time zones, so good morning, good afternoon, and good evening respectively. I wish I could thank everyone individually because I know everybody who's listening has played a role in getting me where I am today. So I would begin by extending my heartfelt thanks to everybody. And special thank you to my research advisor, Dr. Sinam, and my committee members, Dr. Dishon, Dr. Sal, Dr. Wilson, and Dr. Zhao, who have been constantly supporting, encouraging, and helping me throughout these 5 years. I don't have words to express my gratitude, but I do have a picture with all the respect in the world. You are my superheroes. A little bit about myself. I think most of you know that I'm from Pakistan, but not many of you know that I'm from a very unique city called Lahore, which is full of history, food, culture, festivals. And I'm telling you this because that defines my personality. I belong to a family of civil engineers, and if you know my culture back home, I was supposed to become a civil engineer. That's what I did. But very soon in my undergrad, I realized that my interest lies more in management side of things and not in the hardcore civil engineering. So I pursued a master's of engineering management. I completed in 2014, and that was a good decision because soon afterwards I got my Fulbright, and I was placed here at Michigan State, and it has been an adventure ever since. I'm also interested in the professional certifications a lot, so I keep on acquiring them whenever I find a chance. So there are a few I've acquired over the years. And I've been fortunate to experience, get industrial as well as get academic experience while my stay here in the US. I worked for a general contractor out of New Jersey back in summer 2016. And I also taught CMP 311 construction project scheduling in spring 2018 and 19, again, thanks to Dr. Sinam. Finally, these are the list of my publications. The ones in the green box are during my PhD. I've been to 3 conferences, fortunately, and I've published 1 journal publication. Okay, jumping to my main presentation now. The title is Transformational Leadership for Sustainability in Architecture, Engineering, and Construction Project Teams. And it really expresses how I deviated from the hardcore civil engineering and came to this soft side. And it's really a dream come true because that's what I always wanted to do. My presentation will have these contents. I'll begin with a background from literature, then I'll jump into goal and objectives. I'll spend some time in methods and results. That's perhaps the biggest part. Then I'll discuss my results, and finally, I'll conclude with some limitations and future recommendations. Why do we need sustainability in architecture, engineering, and construction projects? We need sustainability in everything nowadays. I mean, the climate change is pacing, resources are diminishing, but buildings especially are a huge, they consume the energy and electricity a lot, and they are a huge contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. Therefore, the importance of building green, energy efficient, high performance building it's getting more and more important every passing day. And we can see the trend as well in the development sector. So we can see that construction of green buildings is growing exponentially globally. Now, when the construction became green, also came the standardization with it. And the most famous rating system that is used not only in US and around the world is led by United States Green Building Council. They have a range of certifications that you can gain depending upon the number of points that you achieve. Now, green buildings are amazing, but they come with their share of problems. Evidence suggests that the green buildings are more likely to get delayed, as well as they have higher cost growth on average. And this is believed to be because of the unique nature of green construction projects. Because they have environment as an additional stakeholder. You consider environment in everything you do. The sustainability goals are additional goals which add additional complexity. The non-traditional material and equipment, then there is no new and specialized roles in the team. And finally, rules and regulations vary a lot according to your location. So all these factors make green construction projects complicated and team performance difficult. Now, we're required to improve our team performance. That has been established so far. Literature suggests that the solution for this is team integration, because in green construction, you need input from all parties, and you need an environment where everybody can collaborate and make decisions together. And that's only possible if the team is completely integrated. Now, the team integration theoretically have been achieved through project delivery processes and methods like partnering and IPD, as well as to some extent through tools and technology like building information modeling. But there's one area that has not been explored so far, and that is the human factors like leadership. And interestingly, leadership has been strongly recommended for green construction project teams. Effective leadership is supposed to make all the difference here, but nobody has studied it yet. What is leadership? If your actions inspires others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. That's the simplest and most comprehensive definition I could find, but there are hundreds of definitions out there. In AC literature, the focus has always been on the management skills like planning, costing, monitoring, and reporting. And the leadership skills, also termed as the soft skills, are thought as not that important, and they have been majorly neglected, like vision, motivation, trust building, and ethics. When we delve into the leadership literature, we see that the concept of leadership has evolved a lot with time. Initially, it began with the human traits. Leaders were thought to be born, and they were just studied with their characteristics. But gradually, people started to study their behaviors in different contexts. Then gender came in, social cognition came in. And now we are facing the third wave, where we have trust and transformation and charisma that has taken over this movement of leadership. Now I'll talk about what is transformational leadership and why have I selected this particular theory for my study. A transformational leader is somebody who practices the 4 I's of leadership to positively impact the team members. The first I is idealized influence, which means that you act as a role model for your team members. The second I is inspirational motivation, which means that the leader communicates the vision of the work to add value for the team members. The third I is intellectual stimulation, environment in which everybody is comfortable sharing their ideas and raising their concerns. And finally, individualized consideration means that you consider each team member individually for their requirements and cater them. Now, transformational leadership theory is one of the most in the current era. It is focused on team development, which matches with our requirements. It creates team integration. There are multiple studies identifying that. And it has been termed as suitable for complex projects like architectural, engineering, and construction projects. Therefore, I selected transformational for my study. Before I jump to goals and objectives is individual versus shared leadership. Now, the common concept and the dominant concept in AEC literature is that the managers are the leaders. You identify leaders, you nominate them, and you study them. But that's not the true representation of leadership, because in real, there can be multiple, them cannot even be officially designated. They can be emergent. So it's very important to study all those leaders and their effect on team leadership to have a better picture of leadership in teams. Therefore, I'll use shared leadership concept in my study. Okay, the goal of my study, in fact, overarching goal of my study, is to explore the structure and role of transformational leadership for sustainability in AEC project teams. And to pursue this goal, I've come up with the following objectives. Number one, develop a multi-level framework which proposes investigations not only at the then to define variables and develop measurement tools. Then take those measurement tools and validate them with the help of experts. Collect data, and finally, analyze. Methods that I employ them one by one. First, we had to develop a study framework. And like I mentioned, I wanted investigations at both individual and team level. At individual level, I've kept it more quantitative. So the first hypothesis is that individuals' perception of transformational leadership has a positive effect on individuals' perception of team performance. The second hypothesis is that this relates to individuals' perception of team integration. At the team level, I take more of an exploratory approach, and I ask broader questions like, who are the transformational leaders for sustainability in green AEC project teams? And how does transformational leadership for sustainability flow in green? Now, for the variables in the study hypotheses, I find measures one by one. For transformational leadership, I use the very famous multi-factor leadership questionnaire by Bayes and Avelio, and I modify those questions for sustainability. There are a total of 16 measures, for example. The complete list is on page 44 and also on 45 in the dissertation document. It is very important to mention here that for transformational leadership, the team members will be asked to first identify the leaders in their teams, and then ask each one of those leaders. For team integration, I use Lichtenstein's perception of team integration measures, because in AEC, team integration is famous, but it's not measured on the basis of perception. Mostly, it's based on the number of team meetings, etc. Therefore, these measures, which are very highly cited, were thought to be the best fit. Again, the complete list is on page 44 and 45. And finally, for team performance, I use Tabasi's measures because they are designed specifically for. Now, I made questions out of these measures, and I took them to my experts. There were 3 experts, one from owner, one from designer, and one for construction teams, and they had decades of lead experience. I gave them the questions, and they proposed changes and modifications for almost all of them. I'm giving 3 examples here, and the complete list of changes and modifications in all 47 of dissertation document, Appendix C. Then in the next step, I had to limit my scope of study. So I defined that my population would be the teams of near completion, new construction, and major renovation projects in the United States, and 4. Near completion because it gives us the surety that the teams are mature, and lead V4 because it's a relatively new version and deemed to be more complicated. For the case study project selection, I first went USGBC's online list with the following filters: new construction and major renovation, lead V4, United States. And it gave me a list of all the projects and falling under these categories. Then I used systematic sampling and sent an email to every 10th project on that list to request them for a participation. Once a project agreed to link to the owner's representative, who then distributed it to the team members. The owner's representatives were also interviewed for some information about project characteristics like project delivery system. The data analysis part, which is the study hypotheses, I use structured equation modeling. I first checked the reliability with the help of Cronbach's alpha. We have already seen how the content was validated by the experts. And then we will also check the construct validity with the help of confirmatory factor analysis before we go for the structural equation. For the qualitative part, for the research questions majorly, I used the comparison of the social networks, the leadership networks I created, and I matched the patterns between different case studies. Reliability was assured by a detailed case study through pattern matching and external validity through multiple case studies. Now I'm going to jump into my results. We use these methods to collect data and analyze them, and we came up with the following results. First, the sample characteristics. There were a total of 151 that I downloaded from USGBC. I sent emails to 152 of them, and only 9 of them responded with an agreement. And coincidentally, all of them belong to educational institutes, though the building use is different for all the projects. Now, 4 of these projects are located in Southeast, and 2 of them are located in West region. You can also see the budget, area, and project delivery methods for each of them. The project delivery methods will come up later in the results as well. For each of the project, the response rates were not average of 41.7% response from teams. And the teams were also limited because owners sent them to only the owner, designer, construction team members, as well as all the subs, but nobody beyond that. No suppliers, no workforce, etc. And even then, in those smaller teams, I was ranging from 25 to 72%. A total of 103 responses were collected. Jumping into individual level analysis, the Cronbach's alpha was satisfactory, but the normality of wasn't very satisfactory. Visual observation, as well as in skewness and kurtosis and Shapiro-Wilk normality tests, that our data was very not normal. It was severe non-normality. And for such non-normality, the most recommended remedy is using . SB scaling instead of uses robust estimates. We did our construct validity with the help of confirmatory factor analysis. The fit indices were within the limits, and therefore we deemed the model to fit the data, and we went on with our hypothesis testing. Hypothesis 1, perceived transformational leadership was found to have a positive effect on perceived team performance. The effect size was 0.326, and it's highly significant. The p-value is less than 0.001. The blue boxes that you see here are basically the dummy variables used to cater for the fixed effects of 9 different project teams that make up a total of 103 sample size. Then we did the hypothesis 2, and we found almost all the effect to team performance is mediated through team integration. And that ends our individual level analysis. We find that perceived team transformational leadership has a positive impact of perceived team performance, and this effect is almost completely Jumping into team level analysis. Before answering the research questions, we develop these leadership networks. You can see that the construction, design, and owner team members have been represented by orange, blue, and green colors respectively. The pink color has been used for other team members, commissioning agents, etc. The arrows point from the follower to the leader, and the thickness of arrows represent the weightage of leadership received. We create these leadership networks for all 9 case studies. Results as well as discussions. Okay, question number 1. Who are the transformational leaders for sustainability? Now, when I listed the rules, I divided them further into 2 broad categories. One is the theoretical leaders, and one is the newly identified leaders. Theoretical leaders, usual suspects who have been identified clearly or vaguely in leadership in AC literature to provide leadership in green AC project teams. Newly identified leaders are emergent leaders. These are the roles that nobody thinks would provide leadership in AC project team. The article in 17 newly identified. Now, when we look at these newly identified leaders, it's interesting to observe that most of them are design team members, and within them, the majority is with mechanical engineers. So these are very interesting findings here. We also test statistics as predictors of leadership, and we found that lead experience and lead accreditation. Lead experience means the number of lead projects the person worked in the past, and lead accreditation means the person has a lead accredited professional or lead GA or some sort of lead accreditation from USGBC. These 2 leaders, that means the leaders had significantly more experience and significantly more number of lead accreditations as compared to those who were not identified as leaders. Jumping to question number 2. How does the leadership flow? Now, in contrary to the common perception in AEC, it's not always trickled down. We observed in subordinates acted as leaders for the superiors. In other words, the superiors identified subordinates as their transformational leaders. Similarly, we also saw a trend between organizations. We saw, for example, the director of construction, the topmost position in the owner team, identifying a site superintendent as a transformational leader, which is a low tier uh, role in the construction team. Therefore, the flow patterns are really not that predictable. There can be many different flow patterns. One interesting observation in this regard was that for design build teams, there were multiple leadership links between the design and construction team members. The design and construction team members identified each other as leaders in design build projects. But that was completely non-existent in the design bid build projects and hardly any in CM at risk. Jumping to the discussions now, the multi-level study framework. When we look at AC literature, the focus has always been on leader characteristics. We identify leaders and we study the characteristics. And this approach has missed out a lot on the overall structure of leadership in teams. And we know that both micro and macro level investigations are required for a holistic picture. Therefore, this study had a new approach, a novel approach in exploring leaders, which was more authentic as compared to just nominating them, but also coming up with a team level overall investigation, which gave us the flow of leadership. When we talk about the flow of leadership, we see that we always talked about appointed leaders and cascading effect. That's why we appointed leader provides leadership for everybody under him or her. But our exploration revealed that that's not the case. There are emergent leaders in AEC project teams, and there are bottom-up flows as well. So this supports the shared leadership theory claim, especially the distributed leadership by Mehra's leaders, and there can be emergent leaders as well, and the flow can be from anywhere to anywhere. Also, the trend that we saw with design build and design build projects can be explained in the light of shared mental models. Dr. Sinham and I worked on piece recently where we tools in AC project teams in the light of delivery systems. And we explained how design build teams are expected to have a more mature shared mental model setup as compared to design build teams. And what does that mean? That the team members know each other more. They know the expectations, the personalities, and this develops trust. So that might be the explanation of this difference of trends in both delivery systems. Designers as emerging leaders. We all saw how the new or emergent leaders were dominated by designers. One explanation of that is that designers are the founders of green building movement itself. They are the ones who came up with this idea, and they're trained to consider climate and sustainability in their practice. So it's only natural for them to have that leadership, those leadership characteristics. Also, we saw that mechanical engineers were in majority amongst those emergent engineers. For that, we can see in literature that in the design of green AC projects is different from traditional projects because it has a lot of energy efficiency going on. Energy efficient design is a major consideration in green AC projects. And when it comes to energy efficiency, the design, development, implementation of these systems is the responsibility of a mechanical engineer. So they naturally take that lead. And when they design it, we know that it's a very robust process, because energy efficiency requires input from all the team members, and they naturally communicate with everybody. So this might be one of the reasons that mechanical engineers come out as the top emergent leaders. And then the role of relevant experience and qualification. This is also explained by leadership development theory, which already identifies experience, education, and training as predictors of leadership development, and our results validate these propositions. Jumping to my conclusions. Study deliverables first. What did my study deliver? Number one, validated measurement tools for sustainability. There were validated tools for transformational leadership, integration, as well as performance, but they're. Then the shared leadership has been used for the first time in AEC. So this effect is novel, as well as the team integration as mediator. Then the patterns of flow have been, for the first time, investigated in AC project teams, act of delivery systems. And finally, validation for the proposition of leadership development theory. Lead experience and lead accreditation relates to the relevant experience and qualification that is talked about in the leadership development literature. The study definitely has its limitations. Generalizability, for example, I did not expect for all the projects to be educational institution projects, but that's how it turned out to be. Therefore, it's not very, then complete picture, low response rate from the teams. We might have missed leaders, we might have missed patterns. So that is something that limits our results. And finally, I tried to collect data regarding objective project performance, like numbers for cost, numbers for times, numbers for hesitant to share them with me. Had they been with me, I could have perhaps applied more relationships there. So these are the limitations I can think of. For future, I would definitely recommend boosting the response rate. Like I said, we might have missed many leaders and many different patterns. Multi-level means that really relating the variables from one level to another level. Had I had those project level variables, I could have done that, but the future studies should definitely consider them. And longitudinal studies, because right now what we did was basically data collection 3. We took it at the very end of the project, but we really need to know how it's emerging. So longitudinal studies would be beneficial in this regard. And that concludes my presentation. I thank you all, and I would really welcome any questions.